Hey guys, what's up? It's Johnny. And so, I kind of wanted to do this video a little bit. um, Trigger warning about this story. Um, in case you do get triggered by this, I will be talking about suicide in this video. So, trigger warning for anybody who's watching this. If you don't want to hear about it, I suggest you stop right now. But yes, big trigger warning. So, as the thumbnail said, this is my Juggalo story. I've mentioned in other videos that I'm a Juggalo. I'm a fan of the Insane Clown Posse. And so, yeah, this is ultimately how I became a Juggalo. So, first and foremost, for those of you who don't know, 4th grade through 8th grade, I went to a school for kids with learning disabilities. They since changed the name of the school, but back when I went, it was called the Children's Institute. And I was always one of those kids. I could make friends easily. Kids were drawn to me, no problems. I graduated the school in 1999, and I went back into mainstream school. It was harder for me. I went to high school, Scotch Plains Fanwood High School, to be exact. Now, anybody who doesn't know, Scotch Plains Fanwood High has 3 middle schools going into it: Park, Terrell, and St. Bart's. Now, going into the high school, you already had the cliques from the middle schools, which carried over. So you had all the kids, basically, in a way, all the kids from Park thought I was from Terrell. And this is when they found out I was a freshman, because I looked older than what I was. I had freshmen who thought I was a senior. I had seniors who thought I was a new teacher. I had some teachers thinking I was a former student coming back to say what's up. I even had some teachers thinking I was a new teacher. That's how old I looked. But I mean, when you go in your freshman year with a mustache and a beard, what do you expect? But anyway, like I said, all the kids from Park thought I was from either Terrell or St. Bart's. Terrell thought I was from Park or St. Bart's. And, well, the majority of the St. Bart's kids that didn't go to Union Catholic High, they just knew I didn't go to St. Bart's, and a lot of them just looked their nose down at me, like they did everybody else. Not gonna say all of them did, but a good majority did. So, making friends for me became very hard. I used to go home at night after school, after I would do my homework, everything like that. When I did homework, because I'll admit I was that kid, I hated doing homework. There would be plenty of times when I didn't do homework. But I used to sit in my room. And I had my grandfather's World War II knife. My grandfather served World War II with the U.S. Marines. Okinawa, Iwo Jima, Philippines. I still have blood on the knife from World War II. I used to sit there in my room and contemplate ending my life. Because, like I said, I was always that kid. I could make friends really easy. But now it was hard. And it sucked. You know, it put me into a depression. Obviously, I never went through with it. There would be countless times I would just sit there and think, I can't do this to my grandfather. Especially with his own knife. Because my grandfather still is to this day my hero. Especially with the way that he died. You know, he died thinking that he was going to rescue my grandmother in the fire that took over the house. But I'll get into that story when I do a tribute for him on his day of death. But I just sat there on my bed thinking, I can't do this to him. Not with his knife, his legacy. So obviously I'd put the knife down. But the thoughts were still there. The thoughts of, I'm nothing. I'm nobody to these people. I'm just an outcast. Like, yes, you know, as time went on, I played football. I wrestled. But I was also a good student, despite not doing homework. But it's like I was too nerdy for the jocks, too jockey for the nerds. So I didn't find my place. Until one day, I'm walking the halls, and an older student was playing a song in his locker. Apparently he got an early release or something that had songs from ICP's album, The Wraith's version of Shangri-La. And there was one song in particular that was playing. Homies. And, you know, Homies definitely holds a special spot in my heart because of it. I sat there and I'm listening to the lyrics and I'm like, wait a minute, there's people out there who feel the way I do, who think the way I do. I started talking to the kid. And, you know, he started to tell me everything about ICP, the Juggalos. And I was like, you know, that's exactly how I feel. You know, the way that you described a scrub. That's exactly how I feel. You know, like I'm a scrub. He just looked at me and said, you know, John, welcome to the family. You're one of us. From there, I started listening to ICP. You know, I mean, I knew about ICP from wrestling, ultimately. WWF with the Oddities, when they were in WCW, ECW. I mean, hell, Shaggy Two Dope held the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. You know? But, you know, time went on. I got more into being a juggalo, more into the culture. Eventually I found, as I jokingly put it, the nectar of the gods, Faygo, while I was working at ShopRite, and I started to drink Faygo constantly. But I mean, come on, I got a 24 ounce for 99 cents. You know, you can't beat that. Yeah, it was diet, that's all they had, and I prefer regular soda over diet, but it still wasn't bad. But then I met a friend down at Mom and Pop's, my aunt and uncle's down in Barnegat, called him Monkey. And Monkey ultimately gave me my Juggalo name, Hatchet. And, you know, that's the Juggalo name I go by to this day, is Hatchet. You know, everything kept going, and eventually I finally got to go to psychopathic concerts. I'm doing 2 different videos on them, but I'll talk a little bit about them here. So my very first concert was Twisted, back when they were still with Psychopathic Records. I got to see them at BB King's in New York, and that was just awesome. That was so much fun. Then eventually I finally got to go to my first ever ICP concert. I've seen ICP 3 times. The last time I saw them was the American Psycho Tour in New York City at the Hammerstein Ballroom. I paid for the meet and greet and everything. The psychopathic. Basically, I was a very important psycho. And I got to meet ICP. I got to tell Violent J my story. And when I told him my story, Jay seemed very touched, because I told him how their music saved me. And, you know, how the Juggalos became part of me, part of my life. When I left Jay, after I got his autograph and a picture with him, unfortunately I lost the camera that had my pictures with Jay, Shaggy, Twisted, Blaze, which sucks because I wanted those pictures. I had full face paint on and everything. You know, as I was getting ready to go over to Shaggy, to go meet up with Shaggy, Jay stopped before he even went on to the next person. And he called out. He goes, "Hey, Hatchet." I turn around, I'm like, "Yo." He goes, "Remember this. The dark days are done. When it's your time, I want to see you at the gates of Shangri-La. I don't want to see you down at the gates of Hell's Pit." I looked at Jay and I said, "Jay, there's no issues with that. The dark days are gone." Now, yes, I say that, and I still do like mental health updates on this channel and everything, because yes, I still do get dark days, but not as dark as they were. Never as dark as they were. But that's where I say the Juggalos saved me. And they turned me into who I am. I will always thank them for that. I've always said they are one of my 3 families. Of course, I have my blood family. Well, technically 4 families. I have my blood family. I have my non-blood family. Mainly aunts, uncles, cousins. I have my alternative lifestyle family. I'll put it that way for right now. And I have my Juggalo family. So I know I'm loved by a lot. And I never forget that. So, that's my story. And I guess I will end this video the only true way of a Juggalo. To any homies out there, Juggalos, Juggalettes, ninjas, ninjettes, you've always got a homie in me. Always. And I will end it like this. Much motherfucking wicked cloud love. Whoop. Whoop. Peace.